Hey, and welcome to another episode of Rankum. This is going to be a fun one. We're talking DC supervillains with a little bit of caveat because I don't think you remember we rolled back. I already did Batman villains, so I'm only limiting Batman to only 2 villains for this list. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But I've got a great panel here. I've got Kirk. Kirk, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Malcolm, thanks for having me on today. I'm excited for this. I've always been much more of a DC guy than a Marvel guy, especially at least when it came to the comics. And one of my favorite things about DC was their villains. So many great, scary, fun villains. So this is going to be a cool list to make.
Also here we've got Doug. Doug, how's it going?
You come to me while I'm drinking, Malcolm. It's okay. No, I'm doing good, man. I'm excited. Hopefully less coughing than last night. As you can tell, I'm a bit of a DC show with what's behind me. When you spend $35 in comics that are holograms. No, I'm excited. DC villains are like my favorite villains to kind of like interject and talk about. So hopefully we get the correct 2 Batman villains on the page, and then the rest of them. No, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear what the panelists got. I'm excited what we're going to be doing.
So I'm sorry when you drink. I didn't know what you're doing. I realised I hadn't actually sent out the link. So, but also here we've got Joe. Joe, how's it going?
It's going. I'm a big DC fan. Pretty much my entire pull list from my local comic shop is new DC titles. Support your local comic shops. Keep them in business so the comic industry can go. But other than that, let's just have fun. Let's talk.
And also here, somebody wanted to put Zack Snyder on the list, but I shot him down for that. We've got Richard Schwartz.
That's hurtful. But I'm happy to be here. I love both DC and Marvel, but I have to say, when it comes to villains, DC always had the better villains, the better origin, better story of the backstory. So I'm looking forward to this. I have a lot written down.
But yes, the way the show works is we're going to go around the roundtable discussion. We're going to go for a Batman villain. We think a DC villain. I've already stuffed it up already, but we're going for a DC villain that we think belongs on our top 12 list, and then at the end of the show we rank them from 12 to 1. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to start with Kirk. Kirk, what's the first one you're going to throw out?
Okay, my first one, since we're only able to do 2 Batman villains, I would get one on the table right away. This is the one I think if we're looking at all of DC Comics and not just specific characters, I'm picking the villain that has the most impact on the Batman villain that has the most impact on the DC universe. The Batman villain that one of the few that's not based strictly in Gotham City, who is more of a worldwide threat and a threat beyond just Batman. And one of my personal favorites of villains in comics ever, and that's Ra's al Ghul. Immortal eco-terrorist. He's on par with Batman. He's on par with the Justice League. He's basically the bad guy version of Batman. And he's so cool, just how he keeps every hero on their toes and how dangerous he is. So I love the guy. I think he's one of the best. I definitely think he should be on the list.
Ra's al Ghul's on the table. Doug, what do you say?
Hitting us up with with them already. Man. Ra's is a great pick, but I say there's somebody that's more globally powerful than Ra's, and he's kind of older than Ra's. And he's smarter than Ra's. When you talk about villains, there's somebody that can take down the Justice League, and we were not mentioning Batman. I don't know if I can give it to Ra's. I love Ra's, but I don't think. I think there's somebody more. If you're going on a global stance, there's somebody more globally that can take down the Justice League as well as other sections of the world.
Joe, what do you say about Ra's al Ghul?
I think when we're talking top 12, I think Race does have a spot on a top 12 list for sure, for all the reasons that Kirk said, with him kind of being a global threat and more than just being confined to Gotham City, which is what most of Batman's Rogues Gallery is. And if we're going to have two Batman villains, I think Ra's al Ghul is definitely one of the two Batman villains we should have on this list. So it's a yes for me.
Richard, what do you say about Ra's al Ghul?
I mean, Rachel Goes definitely up there. I mean, it's just the limitations with the two Batman villains. Honestly, Rachel Gould is a dominating presence when it comes to DC, not just the Batman villains, but he's also affected the other DC heroes as well. So I'm going to say yes.
And with that, Ra's al Ghul does make this list. And I also would have went yes on this as well. So I think Ra's is one of those ones which has been used so much in every comics. And I mean, they always say Arrow is the CW's version of Batman, but they also use Ra's there as well. So Ra's al Ghul makes the list. Doug, what's your first nomination?
Ooh, all right. I'm going to go with my original pick. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to go with Adam Sutler from V for Vendetta. I think we're going to talk about mainstay characters of DC. I think we're not going to talk about much about just the off-brand, like the off-brand comics, the independent comics that were taken over by DC. V for Vendetta is a very amazing graphic novel. Adam Sutler is the basically form, I would say, the whole Parliament, but we're mainstay looking for one person, and Adam Sutler is that person in the Parliament during the events of V for Vendetta. And I think what he does is some of maybe the horrific things once you find out like what he's actually planning, and his order to basically kill all those people without hesitation. When they're all wearing the Guy Fawkes mask, is showing of how evil that is. It's showing you how evil government can be. And I think he deserves to be on the list because we're not going to talk about much of the comic books. I doubt we're going to get to Watchmen, but I wanted to at least give V for Vendetta some love.
Adam Sutler is on the table. Joe, what do you say?
I am going to have to I'm going to say yes as well. For I think Doug did a very good job of like painting the picture of why Adam Sutler is just this very evil man. And when we're talking about top 12 villains, I think we also need to look at like what they bring and what they show. And when I think of villainy, I think of just people who are despicable and awful human beings. And Adam Sutler definitely fits that bill.
Richard, what do you say about Adam Sutler?
I do not know about Adam Sutler. I wasn't huge on V Vendetta, so I'm going to say no on that case because I don't know.
Kirk, what do you say about Adam Sutler?
Yeah, I love V for Vendetta. I especially love John Hurt's portrayal of this character in the movie. But I'm also going to say no on it simply because when you're talking, and it's a great dark horse pick, but when you're talking about the history of DC villains, there's so much deep history there with so many of these guys, and with the fact that Adam Sutler is just basically a one-shot villain is really the only downside for this. I mean, if he had more going on than that one storyline, I'd be more apt to say yes to him. But this one, I'm going to give a thumbs down to.
Yeah. I mean, I applaud Doug for going extremely left field and bring up one that I didn't think of in making this list, but sadly, I'm going to have to say no because I think, not that I don't think he's a good villain. I think if we're doing top 15, maybe I would say yes, but top 12, I think not quite. So Adam Sutler does not make the list. Joe, we go to you for your first nomination.
I'm going to go with the Crow Magnon himself, one Vandal Savage, the man who has survived Ice Age, travels through time, can go toe to toe with the Justice League, and in all of his iterations, he is seen as this unstoppable force and just menacing of this guy who cannot be killed. He's immortal, and he doesn't have to use the Lazarus pit to make his immortality. He has just these. He's considered one of the first, if not the first, metahumans. Is once again a global threat. I think that's what Doug was alluding to when he was saying about other global threats. Vandal Savage is definitely one of them, and so yeah, I'm going to throw out Vandal Savage out there.
Vandal Savage is on the table. Richard, what do you say?
Vandal Savage definitely is a good choice. Definitely a dastardly villain. The fact that he is immortal, cannot be killed, has definitely caused the Justice League a lot of problems. I'm going to say yes.
Kirk, what do you say about Vandal Savage?
Yeah, like Joseph, I'm pretty sure this is who he was talking about when I was talking about Raish, and he's right. Yeah, I mean, I think he said was right on the ball. Both these guys. Yeah, I mean, he's a mainstay. He's one of the headliners. In the comics, I love his portrayal in Young Justice. I think that's the best version of this character, and I do think Raish is a little more interesting of a character. But just if you're going by pure power and just pedigree of what they've done and what they've accomplished, yeah, Vandal Savage definitely belongs on this list.
Doug, what would you have said about Vandal Savage?
I mean, I hinted to the guy, so yeah, it's 100% with me. I will say I do love him in Doom. I do love him in Justice League Doom. He is fantastic in that. But yeah, no, his comic books appearances are ridiculous sometimes.
And yeah, I mean, Vandal Savage is one I also would have said yes to. Like, I unfortunately haven't read a lot of the comics in which he's been the villain in, but I've been more familiar from his appearances on Legends of Tomorrow and all that. And even in those appearances alone, prove why he's a really big villain. So yeah, Richard, what's your first nomination?
My first nomination is Eobard Thawne, aka the Reverse Flash. He is Barry Allen's The Flash's greatest arch enemy. He is responsible for the death of Barry's mother. He is also majorly responsible for Flashpoint. He is the one villain, especially in the TV show The Flash, that Barry just cannot seem to beat. He always seems to survive. He is very dastardly. He cares about his own life more than anyone else. He has killed multiple people, multiple heroes, in multiple timelines. And I just think when you think of the top 12 DC villains, Reverse Flash Eobard Thawne is definitely on there. So that is my choice.
You stole my first pick there, Richard, so I have to say yes to it. Kirk, what do you say about Reverse Flash?
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch the Flash TV show, and I haven't read the newer like post 52 comics a lot. So I'm not familiar with like the more current iterations of this character. But just based like on his like Silver Age and like 80s and 90s appearances, yeah, definitely. I mean, he's the the Flash is an awesome hero, and this is his arch enemy. So I think if you're doing he's upper echelon DC hero, got to have his villain on there. And if he's responsible for Flashpoint, that means he's responsible for New 52, and I hate New 52. So he's definitely a huge villain in my eyes.
Doug, what do you say about Reverse Flash?
Correction. He is not responsible for Flashpoint. Barry Allen himself is responsible for Flashpoint.
I said he helped with Flashpoint.
Not really. All he did was like, you couldn't even save your mother. That's the only line that he gives him. And then Barry's like, oh, I gotta go save my mother. And I'm going to start a thing. And
I didn't say he was the main source. I know
Barry Allen is his own source of self-sacrificingness. Barry Allen is his own villain. Let's be honest. That's why I love him. No, but yeah, absolutely. Eobard Thawne is great. I do think there's one better villain that comes later down the line, but no, I think Eobard Thawne's fine.
I mean, there is a way we could get Barry Allen himself on this list because
I'm saying I might.
Joe.
I would have said yes too. He's a really interesting villain. I think one of my favorite seen him is in Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, where he's like purposely trying to like slow down his death, and he straight up just takes off his mask and he has a bullet hole right through his head, but he's just like moving so fast because he wants a get out of hell free card, and then he'll let himself die. Like he just wants to be able to go to heaven, and I think it's so interesting that, as Richard said, he only cares about himself. Like he's just like, yeah, he's like, I don't care that I'm in excruciating pain because there's a bullet in my head. I want to make sure I'm going to heaven, and then I'll die.
But yeah, so it comes down to me for my first pick. And I've got to go this route. I've got to take my namesake. I'm going to go with Malcolm Merlyn, also known as the Dark Archer, depending on where you look. This is one of Arrow's big villains. Well, it's in the trend of villains having the same power set and skills and stuff, which I don't always get that criticism. Sometimes one of the best villains is someone that's not going to be easy to take down because they are the same. But regardless, I think Malcolm Merlyn deserves to be on here because just from his appearance on Arrow alone, like he does a lot. He's one of those villains in which he's understated. Like he always worms his way in, making it seem like it's not the villain, and just takes him down undercover. But yeah, Malcolm Merlyn's on the table. Kirk, what do you say?
This one I would have to say no to. I'm not. I don't really watch any of the TV shows, so I'm not familiar from there. And I was never a huge Green Arrow comic fan either. I mean, I read him sometimes, but I knew him more through the Justice League. And I'm aware of the Merlin character, but he always seemed like more small scale, just like focus on Green Arrow, and never really seemed to be a major player in the DC universe on a whole. So this one I'm gonna say no to. Oh my god! Still only get one vote.
Oh man, I thought my black spot. I thought it counted.
Doug, what do you say about Malcolm Merlyn?
I've never really been a big fan of him in the comic series. I think he's kind of wasted a lot in the comic series. I do agree with you that he was well done, but they kind of make him an anti-hero at parts. And that kind of takes away from, villainy and whole. Like, supervillains to me are people that are villains through and through. Reverse Flash maybe have done one nice thing. Vandal Savage hasn't done crap nice, and neither has Ra's al Ghul. Let's be honest. But yeah, I've never really been a fan of him, so I'm going to have to say no.
Richard, what do you say about Malcolm Merlyn?
Here's the thing. I do like, I love Arrow. I love Malcolm Arrow in the Arrow series. However, I just don't think he was a big enough, like, when you think of villains in the comic book era, like, he wasn't like so extraordinarily evil. Like, he is more of the anti-hero than a villain per se. So I'm going to fortunately also say no. He's just not like that. Only a top 12 list. Maybe top 20 I would put him on there, but top 12 we have to like narrow it down. So I don't think he's made it quite there yet.
Joe, what do you say? What would you have said about Malcolm Merlyn?
Keeping it short and sweet.
But we go back to Kirk. Kirk, what's your next nomination?
My next nomination, let's see. I've always been a really big Green Lantern fan. He's one of my favorite heroes. And, his big villain is one of my favorite villains, and that's Sinestro. I've always loved his story arc, that storyline of like the authoritarian, his take on, just knowing what's best for everybody and being in control, and that almost, the times they portray him as just like a really bad cop is one of my favorites of his portrayal. But he's been done so many different ways, and just from his early days, just being Sinestro up to like Sinestro Corps and everything. He's been such a mainstay and such a huge part of the DC universe. I definitely think he belongs on this list.
Sinestro is going to be a yes for me. This is one that I know the Green Lantern movie was terrible and all that, but he was the one character I was intrigued to see go evil, and maybe like should the movie get a sequel, see where they'll go, because was it Mark Strong that played him? I can't quite.
Yeah.
the way the way he portrayed him as a good guy was great, and just to see him sort of go and tap in the dark side of that, I was intrigued to see where that would have gone. But alas, it's going to be something that we'll never see, and it's lost to the ether now. But Doug, what do you say about Sinestro?
If I'm not mistaken, Sinestro is the one that pushes Kyle Rayner into the wall, right? Where
so.
eventually, yeah. So it's got like one of my favorite scenes in comic history. Because we get the White Lantern, Kyle Rayner, who is my favorite Lantern of all time. Say something. I dare you. Next to Guy Gardner, he's the best. Anyway, no, I love Guy Gardner. He gets the red and green. He becomes
I like Guy
unique
Gardner.
thing.
Yeah.
No, but Sinestro is one of those villains that's really complex because he was betrayed by the Green Corps. He was betrayed by them, and he decided to tap into the fear, and then teach him a lesson. He almost kills the Green Lantern Corps, which is great. But then Hal kills him later, so I don't know. It's really messed up. Anyway, Sinestro's a yes.
So with that, Sinestro does make the list. Richard, what would you have said about Sinestro?
100% yes. I love Sinestro. He's like the villain like that you have sympathy for because the Guardians are dicks. that's why
You're not lying.
He's the villain.
You're not lying.
So that would have been 100% yes for me.
And Joe, what would you have said about Sinestro?
Oh yeah, Sinestro, 100%. He was on my list as well as someone who I was going to bring up later if no one brought him up. But yeah, 100% complex. He's one of those villains where he's very complex, and at times you can see where he's coming from because he's just like, even though he's misguided and thinking his view of what is right and wrong is what everyone should believe, you can kind of see he at the end of the day. He's one of those complex villains who thinks he's doing right, which is an interesting villain to actually explore.
Doug, we go back to you for your next nomination.
So I'm ready for my second strikeout, guys. I'm ready for it. Because I'm gonna pitch the next Batman villain. This Batman villain not only took down Batman at one point, he also took down Superman. He created one of the best storylines in comic book history. And I'm talking about the Riddler. I think the Riddler is a character that takes what was known as a joke character for a lot of series. I'll give you that. He was known as a joke character. But as soon as Hush came along, he organized the entire rogues gallery of Batman, had him take down Batman, had him basically take down Superman. It wasn't until Lois was falling off a building by Catwoman that he snapped out of it. He's a brilliant manipulator, and he does things to just manipulate Batman into falling into his traps 99% of the time. And then, I just honestly, I think, I know that we're going to, if he doesn't get on the list, we're going to mention the other mainstays, but I think for a person to have the brains to go against Batman, that's one thing. And Riddler has that. And Hush was an amazing series. If you didn't watch Hush or didn't read Hush, go read it. It's really phenomenal.
Joe, what do you say about Riddler?
That caveat of only 2 Batman villains is I'm just trying to think. I'm going to have to say no for the only reason that I think that when you're talking about Batman villains, if we want another Batman villain on this list, I think there are better options, even in terms of people who can go toe-to-toe mentally with Batman. And so for that reason, I'm going to have to say no for the Riddler for this one.
Richard, what do you say about the Riddler?
I love the Riddler, but unfortunately, there are 2 other Batman villains that at least one of them deserve to be on this list over than the Riddler. So it's gonna be an also no from me.
But I'm actually going to say yes. And even if it does mean that we're going to get a white because one major Batman villain is not going to make this list if he gets on. But one of the people says like just about every interpretation of the Riddler has been done perfectly. Just mentally, like even the Jim Carrey campy version is great. I mean, but as someone who gets sick of hunting down the bloody Riddler trophies in the Batman Arkham game, makes me want to say yes to the Riddler because I'm sick of finding those trophies just to find him. Kirk, you're going to be the deciding vote on this. What do you say about the Riddler?
Yeah, the Riddler is a great Batman villain. I mean, even going back to Frank Gorshin, the '60s TV show, he's always been a lot of fun. But again, if we had more space for Batman villains on this, I might say yes, but I'm going to have to say no, just because I can think of probably, I mean, off the top of my head, I'm thinking of 4 who deserve it more on this. And I mean, Hush was great. But I think like in wrestling terms, that was Riddler's one big push they gave him. And for so many years before that, he had almost become a joke character. And I think that's why Hush worked so well, because that was the big twist at the end, that this guy you wouldn't expect, was the mastermind behind all of it. So yeah, again, it's not if we had complete carte blanche on this list, it's not a bad pick at all. We just got to reserve that spot for a couple other guys. So yeah, I'm going to say no to it.
But Joe, what's your next nomination?
My next nomination is the crazy space bounty hunter himself, Lobo. I think in terms he's just a fun villain in terms of his just being able to have this complete craziness and not take himself seriously, but then also times be just a huge dominating threat that can go toe-to-toe with Martian Manhunter, with Justice League, with the JLA, with some of your big main power stays, and he doesn't have any more motive other than he likes causing chaos and he likes getting paid. And I think that sometimes you just need a villain who's just only in it for the money and doesn't need any of more of this big picture stuff that we get in other villains. So that's why I'm going to nominate Lobo.
Richard, what do you say about Lobo?
I like Lobo, but I always see him as an anti-hero, not necessarily a villain. I see him like he doesn't really do things because he's desperately evil. He does things because he's either paid for it or he's just bored. He's helped the Justice League a few times, so I consider him more as an anti-hero than I do as a villain. So it's a no from me.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat on Lobo. I consider more of a anti-hero than a villain. But yeah, Doug, what do you say about Lobo?
If you consider Lobo an anti-hero, then why the hell does he capture entire civilizations? I'm sorry, you can say that he helped out a few people, but he's captured entire civilizations. He has a farm on his ship. Also, they casted Jason Momoa in the wrong part. Jason Momoa would have been perfect for a Lobo.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can picture his bro status in Lobo. Lobo's a hell yeah. I love Lobo.
Yay.
Damn it, now I want for Aquaman 2 to bring in Lobo, then cast Jason Momoa in both roles. But Kirk, you're sorry you decided again.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I am a big fan of Lobo. His fights against the Justice League and all those guys are great. But the reason I really enjoy him is I think he's a great foil for Superman. Somebody who is on his power level, but at the same time, morally and just psychologically, just the reverse of everything he is. And so many Superman villains can get kind of dry after a while, and Lobo's a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm definitely saying yes to putting Lobo on this list.
Lobo does
Lobo
make
the list.
Even if he ends up 12, I'm just happy.
That was literally my next. That was my next throw out. So,
Richard, that comes down to you for your next nomination.
This is really tough. I'm gonna go with the big Superman villain. I'm going with Darkseid. Darkseid is Superman's if not his greatest villain. He is basically unkillable. He's had multiple versions. He literally, his true forms lives in the other dimension. He has caused Superman to almost do his no killing thing. He's on a whole different scale when you think of evil. He's the Thanos to the DC. He's the OG Thanos because Darkseid was first. He has done more destruction. He has literally almost killed Superman, if not killed Superman. I do not recall. I haven't read all the comics per se on Darkseid, so my nomination is Darkseid.
I'm going all in on Darkseid. I'm going to say yes to him. I just think he's really great, and there's not really much more I can say about him really. But Doug, what do you say about Darkseid?
So I'm scrolling down my list here, and I got two villains that are like side by side that could go toe to toe with Superman. I want to give you the yes, but there's somebody that I think is more powerful than Darkseid, because he can actually take over Darkseid's mind and his entire planet. And hopefully he gets announced sooner than later. So I'm going to say no to Darkseid.
I mean, I have the person you're thinking of on my list too, so
I know you do. I know you know your comics. I'm just saying. I think there's a more powerful.
Yeah.
I'm like we have 5 of the 12,
Yeah.
and I'm just like I don't want to lose him.
Kirk, what do you say about Darkseid?
Absolutely. Darkseid's a no-brainer. I know what Doug's talking about. I mean, he is the iconic DC villain. He was Thanos before Thanos was Thanos. And he's also, to me, he's also like the DC's version of Doctor Doom. Just the fact that he like runs and is the dictator over this entire planet. He's just such an interesting character, and he has so many interesting side characters. And you're always excited whenever Darkseid shows up. So yeah, I mean, the only reason I wasn't bringing it up yet because I knew somebody else would, and I knew he'd make the list. But yeah, I mean, if we're making the list of top 3 DC villains, he's got to be on it.
I mean, he's also technically DC's answer to Apocalypse as well.
Yeah, sure.
Joe, Darkseid makes the list. What would you have said?
I would have said yes too. It just reminds me of one of my favorite moments in television, which is when Superman is at a gravesite, and I'm blanking on the character's name, but it was a character who was killed by Darkseid in one of his Omega beams, and his gravestone just says, "In the end, the world didn't need a Superman; it needed a brave one." And that moment just like still hits me that that Darkseid is like someone who can make even like Superman feel like he's not enough as a hero. That's just definitely puts him in a status of a top 12 villain in my opinion.
But yeah, it brings it back to me. And for my next pick, I'm going to go for someone who's taken out a lot of Earths. He's taken out infinite Earths, so to speak. I bring up the Anti-Monitor. The Anti-Monitor is a big villain, and he's done a lot of great, especially in the adaptations. I kind of wish it was done better in the crossover, but I get they only had a TV budget, so they only had limitations to what they could have done. But the Anti-Monitor is a great villain, and I think he belongs on the top in the top 12. Doug, what do you say about the Anti-Monitor?
I'll give it a slight yes. Anti-Monitor can be a lot of fun at times to watch what he does. He does take out an infinite number of Earths in the comics. He's probably more powerful than our entire list combined. So yeah.
Kirk, what do you say about the Anti-Monitor?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, I was considering him for my list because he is. I mean, crises and everything he's so instrumental in so much of the history of the DC universe. But I think ultimately I'm going to say no to this one just because he's more of a cosmic force than he's a character. And he is as powerful as he is. He's kind of, it's not like there are a lot of different schemes. Because, he shows up, realities are ending. It's not like he's going to have a new scheme or a new big twist on it. So I would say at least the comics I've read. Maybe some of the newer stuff's changed, but for me, it's always been he's just like there, and he's more of a catalyst for the story than he's a character in of himself. So I would say, again, I'm on the fence just like Doug was, but I'm leaning a little bit towards no on this one.
Yeah, I can accept that. Joe, what do you say about the anti-monitor?
I was on the fence too. Kirk's argument swayed me to a no because, as he said, he's more of a force than he is a villain. Just going through, he kind of just shows up when DC needs either a reboot or a big event to draw readers in. And to me, that's not really a villain. That's just that would be like if all of a sudden DC decides that a guy named Doug Castle will show up once a year to reset the system.
I don't like how you're doing that, guys. I'm pushing the button.
To me, the anti-monitor is just it's the reset button without having to say there's a reset button.
Which means Richard, it comes
on the reset button, guys. I like it.
I'm sorry, Malcolm. I kind of agree with Joe and Kirk. I just feel like he's only there when they need a redo, like they were saying. And also, his name still really freaking bugs me. It always has. I just think it's the laziest freaking name of all time when it comes to villains. Like, Reverse Flash is lazy, but Anti-Monitor, Monitor, it was a lazy thing. So I also unfortunately have to say no.
I get that. I was about to point out how Pops if you bring up Reverse Flash and talk about lazy villain names. But anyway, it goes back to Kirk.
Okay, for my next one, let's do it. Let's get out of the way. I'm gonna go with Joker. We only have one more Batman slot, and this got to be the one that gets it. There are a couple other guys that I could think who definitely deserve honorable mention. But I mean, just in the history of comics, in the history of all media of the past century, there's no one more iconic than the Joker. Very few, anyway. He is the best villain. He's the most interesting villain. He has the best interactions, I think, with his hero. The relationship between him and Batman is just so fantastic and so well done, and it just goes so deep. But there's so much history there. He's had so many. I mean, maybe more than any other comic book villain. I mean, you look. He had Jack Nicholson, the Heath Ledger, and just this year Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, he's had Cesar Romero. He's had so many live action, Mark Hamill through all media. He's been represented well. And so he, I mean, again, if we were doing the top 3 DC villains, this would definitely be on it. So got to make the top 12.
Yeah. This is what I was hinting at. There'll be a what if he missed out. But I knew he was going to come up at some stage. I wasn't that, which is why I was trying to do my just Hail Mary throwouts early. Sure. But Joker's an absolute yes. I mean, there's a reason he was the first sort of villain that they chose to do a standalone movie on. So, Doug, what do you say about Joker?
No, come on, man. You're crazy. The Joker, this character, he falls flat all the time. No, I'm just playing. Mark Hamill is and will always be my favorite Joker. I know it's not live action, but his voice is just iconic to the Joker. I think the Joker has some of the best storylines when it comes down to it. The Killing Laugh.
Killing Joke?
Yeah, there you go. I totally fucked that up. I'm not feeling good, guys. He started the whole Injustice series, and how he did it was really fucked, like super fucked. Joker is. I threw a Hail Mary with Riddler because I just really like him in the Hush series. I think what it is in the Hush series is almost on the level of what Joker does in Injustice. But yeah, absolutely. I think it's a phenomenal pick. Joker's top 2 with that.
And in a way, I'd probably argue that his animated portrayal of the Joker is the reason they chose to cast him as the Flash as the trickster, which is a really similar villain to the Joker in a way. And I think I still believe that's probably why they cast him in that series as trickster. Richard, what would you have said about Joker?
I mean, what has Joker done? He only, caused a Batgirl to be paralyzed, sexually abused her, was the light match for the Injustice where Superman
11 nominations on the Oscars.
Yeah, I mean, Joker.
You hush your mouth. You hush your mouth. Andrew Barr almost gave me a heart attack, and I paid you a compliment yesterday, good sir. I paid you a compliment.
He was one of the reasons why I didn't want to throw him out first, because I knew he was going to be on this list. There's no doubt Joker was an absolute yes. He's like one of a kind.
And Joe, what would you have said about Joker?
Yes, and I think we all missed the real best interpretation of the Joker, Martha Wayne Joker.
That actually is not wrong. His
Martha
mother
Wayne
being Joker was fantastic.
Yeah, Flashpoint Joker, Martha Wayne Joker. I think that was one of my favorite Jokers. And so Joker would have been a yes. Even if he had only brought up Flashpoint Martha Wayne Joker, I still would have said yes.
He didn't read that. Remember, he didn't read any New 52. He doesn't like New 52.
No one does. Why do you think it lasted for like only 2 years?
Hey, listen.
Anyway, Doug, what's your next nomination?
Yeah, so I'm going to start getting serious now. And I think one of the best Superman villains of all time is the person that destroyed his homeworld and captured his homeworld and was made from his homeworld and was an AI from his homeworld. And that's Brainiac. You can't talk about Superman without his actual... I know people say Lex Luthor is his arch villain. Let's be honest, guys. It's Brainiac. Brainiac knows how to get into his head, knows how to take over worlds, and knows how to do things... sufficiently. He's, in comic book lines, has taken over Apocalypse. He's taken over other worlds. He's captured these worlds. He's entirely responsible for the Injustice 2 storyline. He captures Kandor. He has all these places. If we're talking about Lobo's petting zoo, he has all these places in like tiny glass bulbs that he shrinks down. He is nothing but an assimilation line. He goes in, assimilates a planet and takes it over, shrinks it, and capture it. We're talking about villains. That's the ultimate villain of DC.
Brainiac is on the table. Richard, what do you say about Brainiac?
It's a yes for me. He's always on my list. I knew exactly who Doug was thinking of when he was saying Darkseid. Brainiac, yeah. One of my favorite portrayals was James Marsters' portrayal in Smallville. It was a very underrated performance. Brainiac, he's mind controlled almost everyone in the Justice League. He's definitely almost unkillable. You never know if he's truly gone. So he's a yes in my book.
There could literally be a microscopic piece left of him, and he rebuilds himself.
Kirk, what do you say about Brainiac?
Yeah, definitely yes for me. He was on my list. I would have brought him up eventually if no one else did. I do think when you just compare, when you're thinking about just power levels and just interesting character and interesting stories, he definitely is the best Superman villain. He's always doing something, like you never know exactly where he's going to be coming from or what he's, when he's going to show up. He's very, dynamic character that way. I loved his portrayal in the Superman animated series. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's where that idea of him being Kryptonian was originated.
Yes.
Yeah. And I really loved him in there. I think that's really when he became like more than just like the mind control guy. And but I mean, if you do look, I mean, there have been so many, like Brainiac 5, and he carries over in like Legion of Superheroes and all that. I mean, he's a huge legacy of the DC universe. No brainer, Brainiac, definitely.
Yeah. And Joe, what would you have said about Brainiac?
Brainiac was also on my list. A shout out to Kirk for bringing up Brainiac 5, his descendant who tries to be a hero but falls back into his coding and his programming. But
Eventually becomes Brainiac again.
great a hero, and all of a sudden, my great-great-grandfather says, "You're a Brainiac. Be a villain." Okay. But yeah, Brainiac definitely being able to convince your hero grandson to be a villain. You gotta like just that alone. I would have said yes, but for all the reasons everyone said, yeah.
But yeah, like Brainiac would have been an absolute yes as well. And with Kirk bringing up Brainiac 5 makes me wonder if that's where they're going with Supergirl. Because Brainiac 5 is on there, and he's just gone back into his coding and stuff, so they might be leading to him to become a villain later on. So that's going to be really interesting there. But
that's the storyline that happens with Brainiac 5, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah.
Starts hearing Brainiac's voice and goes bad.
But go back to Joe. Joe, what's your next nomination?
I think it's perfect that we've seen glimpses of Kirk's cat tonight because my next is Red Lantern himself, Dexstar. Dexstar is straight up just a house cat that the Red Lantern Ring said was angry enough and villainous enough to get the powers of the Red Lantern Corps. It's just a regular house cat. You know how evil you have to be as an animal with no abilities whatsoever. This is not an animal that can not control anything, and the Red Lantern Ring sought it out and made it into a Red Lantern. For that alone, it should be on this list. We can just say it's automatically number 12. I will take that, but Dexstar deserves to be on this list for just being a regular house cat that was given one of the most powerful things in the universe, and it's solely fueled by rage because he's just like every other cat, is super pissed off, but he's at another level, and he has the ability of Atrocitus. We don't need Atrocitus. He can do whatever he wants. We want Dexstar. Dexstar 2020. Get it trending on Twitter right now.
I want to see him in the Green Lantern Corps. I'm not even playing. I want to see him in the Green Lantern Corps.
Kirk, what do you say about Dexter?
Man, my head says no, but here's what I'm thinking. The fun thing about DC is that they're not afraid to go weird or go silly with their villains.
This is true.
I mean, you guys got like guys like Rainbow Raider out there, just all kinds of goofy. Some of their heroes, you had like Nort in the Green Lantern Corps. So even with something as serious and deadly as the Red Lantern, and I'm not a huge fan of like the whole Red Lantern, Blue Lantern, all the different corps. I think that got a little ridiculous after a while. But I think if we're going to have a representation of the Red Lantern Corps on this, why not? Why not it be this one? So yeah, I'll give this one a thumbs up. Joe sold me.
Richard, what do you say about Dexter?
If you wanted Dexstar, you should have picked Atrocitus. He's like the sidekick. I would vote for Bebo more than I would for Dexstar. I'm sorry, it's a no for me.
Doug, what do you say about Dexter?
Listen, he fought for that. I'm giving him the spot because he fought for that. Just because he fought for it. Dexter's really cool, though. Like, if you actually know his backstory, he literally is a cat that's just pissed off. He's literally a cat that's pissed off. He's so pissed off, he like lives on the streets, and every human that goes into touch with him, he tries to scratch him, and it's crazy. But the ring of fear just comes, or the ring of rage just comes down as like, do you want to take this power? And Dexter's like, yes! And I'm just like, yeah.
With that, Dexter does make this list. I also would have said yes based on Joe's passion, and I'm pretty sure Kirk's cat was just going, I'll walk past here, someone's going to mention Dexter, and eventually
he came back to rub on Kirk's leg. Was like, if you don't vote Dexter, I'll scratch you.
You want a real Dexter in here?
Um,
Fine. I knew he was going to get through because that was such a brilliant pitch from Joe. But still, like,
which it brings us back to you for your next nomination.
I gotta go with the main Superman villain, Lex Luthor. Like, he rivals Superman almost every way, and the fact that he's human. He hates Kryptonians so much. He is a great corporate. He becomes president. He almost comes close to being Superman multiple times. And the fact, like, he's not Batman. He's rich as fuck. He's the opposite of Batman. He's the Batman that everyone wants him to be. Lex is on his league of his own. John Cryer has done one of the best portrayals in Supergirl so far, like for Lex Luthor. We've had, obviously, the cartoon version really great. He's the main villain, basically, in almost every Superman TV show or movie, mostly. And what can I say? Lex Luthor. Like, when he's in a villainous plot, he'll do anything possible, even if it comes at the cost of human lives. So, Lex Luthor is my pick.
And with that, Lex Luthor is up here. I'm going to say yes. I think Lex is a great villain, and in fact, he's one of Superman's biggest villains. With the fact that he's human.
Someone's getting a call. Someone's getting a call.
But yeah, it's one of those villains of which is great. I've just thrown off my train of thought. But yeah, one of my favorite interpretations of Lex, even though the movie itself is not that great, but I like Christopher Plummer's version from Superman Returns. Doug, what do you say about Lex Luthor?
Yeah, I mean, I knew he was going to get brought up. I just want to make sure that we got like Brainiac on before him. I enjoy Lex. I don't think at times he can be a little too much. And that's DC Comics we're talking about, but sometimes he should be a little too much. But he definitely deserves to be on here. Yeah, I'll give him a yes.
Kirk, what do you say about Lex Luthor?
Yeah, I mean, he's personally not one of my favorite villains, but just based on iconic status alone, you got to have him on the list. My favorite thing about Lex is his attitude that he's doing the right thing. And, to him, Superman's the villain because Superman is basically the replacement for humans. And Lex sees himself in a lot of ways, right? He's the pinnacle of humanity. And, it's almost like Superman is cheating. And I love that, just like that, the gall, like Superman has the gall to try to take him out. It's such a unique relationship they have between the two of them, where it's just about him trying to, it's almost like Superman's the like I said, you could look at it from the standpoint point, like Superman's the villain and Lex is the one going to try to take him down. And that's just it's been, that story's been told brilliantly so many times. So yeah, again, Lex is the, besides Joker, the super iconic villain of the DC universe. You can't have this list without him.
And Joe, what would you say about Lex Luthor?
Not only is Lex a horrible person, he's also a terrible father. As everyone knows, Superboy is a clone of Lex Luthor and Superman. So Superboy has two shitty fathers. So we feel bad for Connor Kent for having two bad dads, and for that alone, I don't like shitty fathers. So yeah, I would have said yes for that reason alone.
They could have rebooted 2.5 Men with those two.
Yikes! Yikes!
We're gonna redo 2.5 Men. It's gonna be Superman and Lex Luthor raising Connor Kent. Let's make it happen.
Yikes!
2.5 Superman.
Got John Cryer.
But yeah, look at this list. We've got a few different villains represented. We've got a few different ethnicities we've represented. We've representing our cat audience. But I'm going to bring up a villain which is a villain of a superhero which hasn't been sort of mentioned yet. And now I'm going with Cheetah, who's Wonder Woman's villain. This is one of those villains which we will actually see live action in 1984 coming up, played by Kristen Wiig. But Cheetah's one of those villains which is one of one's greatest enemies. And from I don't know a lot about her, to be honest, but it's one that I've seen enough stuff with her in to see on how Darcy she can be at times, and but Joe, what do you say about Cheetah?
Cheetah, I think we have 2 slots left, and I think Cheetah, unfortunately, I think she's a top 20 villain. I don't see her as a top 12 villain. I think she would be, we can put her as an honorable mention as a number 13. But I think there's better Wonder Woman villains as well. So for that reason, I'm going to have to go no on Cheetah.
Kirk, what do you say about Cheetah?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest weaknesses of Wonder Woman as a character is that she has a very weak rogues gallery. I think we saw that in her first movie, and I'm not hopeful from what we've seen about the portrayal in the upcoming movie. I think they're giving her kind of like the Catwoman / Electro movie sad sack villain, and backstory, and I hate that. I think there are a couple Wonder Woman villains that are better, but overall, I'd be fine without her being represented on this list just because of how weak her villains are. So I would say no to this.
Richard, what do you say about Cheetah?
I mean, I don't know too much about her. I always get her and Tigress from Marvel confused. Because, very similar aspects and powers. I have seen her, she can be a good villain. I'm just going to say yes, just for me, because, I know the potential there was for Wonder Woman. The fact that she has such a weak gallery that Cheetah is one of her strongest rivals, foes. So I would say yes.
Which means, Doug, it comes down to you.
Yeah, I got to give this a no. I have somebody in mind that's a stronger Wonder Woman villain. I'll just leave it at that.
It's one of those things we're making this list. I was going for a lot of DC villains. There's really not a lot of notable, aside from the Batman side of things, there's not a lot of notable woman villains in DC.
There's not.
But with that aside, Kirk, we go back to you for your next pick.
Okay, with the slots we have left, this will most likely be the last time it comes around to me. So that's somebody I wanted to mention. I am a huge Justice League fan. That's really when I first got into superhero comics. I love the Justice League. And we've talked about a lot of characters who have fought the Justice League through their connection to superheroes, to certain heroes. But this one villain that I really enjoy, I love the old Silver Age Justice League and the villains they fought. And the villain I want to bring up now is Amazo. Amazo is that who you think I was going with, Doug? Was that who you were thinking of?
No, that's not who I think you're going with. I thought you were going for the first villain that they fought.
Okay. No, Amazo is an android that basically is able to absorb and take on all of the Justice League's powers. Anytime they come in touch with him, he's able to use their abilities. He was made by Professor Ivo and Tio Morrow, I believe. And I think those are 2 pretty cool Justice League villains in and of themselves. So to have them represented through this character, I think would be nice to have on this list. And a lot of fun stories, a lot of really cool fights and battles. How are we going to beat this guy? He can do everything we do. He's unstoppable. He just keeps coming back. He's been represented great in the comics, in the different cartoons, and just in Young Justice, in the Justice League animated series. He's had a lot of really cool iterations. What else was he in? Was he in the Red Hood? Under the Red Hood, he had a cameo in it. It was pretty cool.
Yes.
I love this villain. He's a lot of fun. Reminds me of those old Silver Age comics. I love to see him make the list.
Doug, what do you say about Amazo?
I think Mesa's really cool. I think he's the first foe that they've kind of fought that he was like kind of overpowered him at points until they learned how to beat them all together. But yeah, I give Amazo a shot.
Joe, what do you say about Amazo?
My voice is shot right now from all of the Dexstar talk, but Amazo definitely, he was going to be my next suggestion too. So hopefully Doug can finish this list out, so I'm not left without anyone.
So if that Amazo makes list, Richard, what would you have said?
I mean, I'm fine with it. I think I probably would have said no, just because, like, but Amazo's a cool character. I mean, it was a toss-up for me. I could have said yes, could have said no. For me, I was leaning more towards no. But again, Amazo's fun, so. I'm glad
Yeah, Amazo's probably one I was on the fence with. I probably would have given a slight yes myself, but yeah. But Doug, you're next. Can you close out the list and tell us why Starro's a great villain?
Why? Who is the great villain?
Starro.
No, I'm not gonna go there. We have our Silver Age guy. No, I'm actually gonna go with Ares. I think Ares is the Wonder Woman villain that you go with. It's her brother. She fights him. She fights a god. That's why she has a weak gallery. She fights the gods all the time. You pick any number one of them. She hates her father too. She fights Zeus at one point. But I think the most heated rivalry is between her and Ares because Zeus wants her to take over the role of Ares. He wants her to become the god of war. Their battles are legendary. When you have Ares going after one of Zeus's child and children, and Wonder Woman steps up to stop him, it becomes this bloodbath between both of them. I think if we're going to represent Wonder Woman, we should represent it with her strongest. Did I die?
No, you're still there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just finishing up with this last sentence. I think when we represent Wonder Woman, we should represent it with her strongest adversary.
Kirk, what do you say about Ares?
Again, I'm on the fence with this one, and I'm going to go no slightly just because in the whole grand scheme of the DC universe, I think the gods don't have as much impact as they do, say, in Marvel, outside of Wonder Woman. So seeing him as a DC villain, I wouldn't put him. I'd probably put him top 20, but not top 12.
Joe, what do you say about Ares?
It's gonna be a no from me, dog. Like I said, I think that he's more. It doesn't really have the grand scheme of things. He's more just for Wonder Woman's sake, and he's kind of bland. He can do some damage, but it's not. There's nothing really more. He's angry.
Richard, what do you say about Ares?
Kind of the same thing. Like, he's just mainly the Wonder Woman. He hasn't really explored the other DC heroes other than Wonder Woman. Kind of one-dimensional. No for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would have also said no. Like, sadly, the only thing I know about Ares is from what we've seen in the Wonder Woman movie itself, and based on that, I wouldn't have said yes because I didn't think it was done well in that movie. But Joe, what's your next nomination?
My next nomination is Black Manta. I think when you're talking about someone who, just from his origins and being stewed in the civil rights era, with the whole fact that they were invading Atlantis because as a whole, like, he felt that the surface world wasn't right for the black community, and so he was going to take Atlantis for the black community and turn it into himself. So for me, he was for having this righteous man who thinks that what he's doing is the right thing, that he's taking Atlantis for a more deserving group of people in his eyes is what his main goal is. And the fact that, and I think that's what really makes him interesting. And also the fact that he's not Atlantean at all, and he can still go toe to toe with Aquaman. Yes, he does have armor, he does have technology, but a lot of times the only people who can go toe to toe with Aquaman are other like that level of characters in terms of power levels, and they already have natural abilities or supernatural abilities like a Dr. Fate or a Green Lantern or an Ocean Master or a Superman. So I think Black Manta, with just from his rich character history, from his origins to his evolution as a character into a pirate who still thinks that the world owes him something because he's been slighted by the world, and that he is just taking back what he is owed and due, is such an interesting character that he just stands above a lot of other characters and deserves to be on this list.
Kirk, what do you say about Black Manta?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Black Manta. I remember him when I was a kid watching the old Super Friends cartoon. He was always my favorite villain on there. He's visually always been one of my favorite heroes. I love the look of him. His interaction, like you said, like he's not a part of Aquaman's world, but like the way he kind of made himself. And he's like one of those self-made villains. I like that. He's also one of my son's favorite supervillains. He was my favorite part. I wasn't a big fan of the Aquaman movie. To me, he was the standout part of that film. I hated how underexplored his character was, because he was, to me, the best part of that. For me, Black Manta is a yes.
Doug, what do you say about Black Manta?
Yeah, I mean, I like Black Manta enough. I think he's. I think it's his character alone. I can't wait. Hopefully, in the second movie, they flesh him out a little bit more. But I understood why they didn't flesh him out as much, because they want to leave him alive and leave him wanting more. So I think we'll get a little bit more from him in the next movie.
Richard, what do you say about Black Manta?
It was going to be a yes for me. I did like him in the Aquaman movie. What I really liked him the most in was in Young Justice. Just like he had a small role, but the role he had was actually really well done. Kind of made me feel bad for that villain, but yeah, it would have been a yes for me.
It would have been a yes for me as well, because I think he's great in the movie, and even in just various appearances in Young Justice too. I think we've done well. But now we get to the fun part, which is ranking the list. Doug's already ready with his pick, but before we go to that, I'm going to do some honorable mentions. Doug, did you have any honorable mentions?
Yeah, definitely Black Adam. Since we could only do so many, let's do Black Adam, Captain Cold, and since we could only do so many villains, for Batman, I still want to represent Bane, because Bane's probably one of my favorite Batman villains.
Kirk, what honorable mentions did you have?
Yeah, one I thought would make the list for sure was Gorilla Grodd. Doug mentioned Captain Cold. I think all Flash's Rogues Gallery is great, but I think the problem is trying to get one of them, pick one of them. That whole crew. You guys mentioned Starro as a joke, but I love Starro the Conqueror. Big fan of Neron, the devil character from Underworld Unleashed, and Maxwell Lord is another big villain I'm a big fan of. And that's the one I'm looking forward to in Wonder Woman 84.
Yes,
Joe.
Interesting.
Joe, what honorable mentions did you have?
So honorable mentions that Doug and Kirk haven't already brought up. Ozymandias from Watchmen. He was my 13th pick. So if Black Manta had said no and it somehow got around to me again, I was going to bring him up. But other than that, like Gorilla Grodd and Bane were both honorable mentions as well for me.
Richard, what honorable mentions did you have?
The ones that were not mentioned, because I had a lot of what they mentioned. I had Trigon. I had Amanda Waller. I had Injustice Superman.
Great.
And I also I had Owlman. I know he wasn't gonna be on there, but I liked Owlman.
I was literally thinking about doing it. I was like, can I pull the trigger?
And honestly,
if Star didn't get on there, Owlman was my next wild out there. I'm going to fight for this choice.
Well.
Gorilla Grodd was going to be my next pick if it got back to me. But I also had Zod, Damien Dark, A couple which are two which have over the time gotten more into anti-hero thing. That's Killer Frost and Captain Cold. They're kind of on the fence when it comes to villains now. I actually was going to bring up. Yeah, I actually was going to bring up Trickster at some stage. And Bizarro was one, and I also had Bronze Tiger on mine because I like Bronze Tiger. But yeah, now we get to the fun part. So we're going to write down something on a board, bit of paper, any like what we think should be at number 12.
We should all have the same thing.
All right. Let me get my whiteboard real quick. Sorry.
That's all good.
Let me get to my notes.
We should still all have the same thing.
I would say while we're waiting, Star Drew mentioned Solomon Grundy in the chat. That would have been that's a great honorable mention.
Oh yeah.
Calendar man.
All right, I got my pick.
Condiment King's pretty great as well.
Yeah.
Condiment King's ridiculous.
Joe,
why do you know him bring up Voldemort? He's a decent villain. He was in Lego Batman.
Joe, what do you have for 12?
Dexter, I know he's gonna be there, so I just put him Dexter.
Kirk.
Yeah, Dexter.
Richard.
Dexter, meow.
Dexter.
Dexter.
The all unanimous 12th pick. Thank you. Thank you for putting that up because now we didn't have to fight over a 12th spot.
Can you think of how much the white would be if we put Dexter above Joker?
Dexter at number 1, people would flip.
Right. Zack Snyder made the list without ever being mentioned.
With our 13th pick of the night, Zack Snyder.
But Richard, what do you have for 11?
I have Lobo.
Doug.
Lobo.
Joe.
I put a Mazo.
Kirk.
I went with Reverse Flash.
I went with Lobo. But Lobo's going to be 11. Now we go on to 10.
Number 12 on the list, number 1 in my heart, Dexter.
But Doug, what do you have for 10?
Amazo. I like the character, but I think there's better.
Kirk.
I stuck with Reverse Flash.
Joe.
Amazo.
Richard.
Amazo.
I actually went with Vandal Savage.
Yikes.
But Amazo is going to be 10.
You thought Vandal Savage was going to get number 10 so bad you put Vandal Savage.
You cheetah! You cheetah!
Amazo number 10.
Well, hey, it's my show. I can do what I want. And that is make mistakes when I'm doing the banners. But Kirk, what do you have for 9?
Yeah, I'm going to board with you now. I'll say Vandal Savage.
Joe.
I put Reverse Flash this time.
Richard.
I have Vandal Savage.
Doug.
Kirk! Reverse Flash!
How dare
Vandal Savage.
Yikes.
What the heck was Reverse Flash?
I think he'd be rightfully so placed at number 9. Now, hopefully, he'll be rightfully placed at number 8.
So I'm just going for what I had mine written down in my top 12. So yeah, no, it's all good.
But I've got Reverse Flash, Doug,
Reverse Flash. Didn't change it.
Kirk,
Reverse Flash.
Joe,
Reverse Flash.
All right.
and Richard.
I had Black Manta.
Da, 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 da.
At least this time we don't have to worry about going to the chat for tie-breaking.
Yeah.
At least somehow we have a 5-way tie-break, of course.
Everyone voted.
Yeah.
Joe, what
Somebody
do you
put
have?
2 votes down.
for
Sinestro.
Wow.
Kirk,
Black Mana.
Richard,
Black Manta.
Doug,
Black Mana.
and Black Manta. Also, I have to admit, the first time it was brought up tonight, I thought someone said Black Panther, but until I realised that no, that's not.
DC villain is Black Panther.
Actually, probably get a bit of hate for this one, but I think this is a perfect place for him.
I already see who you're writing.
He's putting Darkseid down here. I can tell you that much.
Nope, that's not who he's putting down.
He's put. Oh, yeah.
Richard,
I have Rachel Gould.
Whew.
Doug,
Sinestro.
Kirk,
Lex Luthor.
Joe.
Sinestro.
You're the only one that's left.
Yeah,
And you put the same thing as Kirk.
I did.
We got it. We can just have Richard do the tiebreaker.
Yeah, Richard does the tiebreaker.
Yeah, Richard does the tiebreaker. He has to choose between Lex Luthor and Sinestro.
Lex Luthor. I choose Lex Luthor.
I forgot. I actually forgot Richard read something different.
I did.
Wow.
Left, we got 5 left, so.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, the other 5 that's left, and I will recap that. We've got Joker, Ra's al Ghul,
Sinestro.
Sinestro, and Brainiac left.
And Darkseid.
Yes, and Darkseid. Actually, the funniest thing is would have been if I actually had a second whiteboard to the side and made
And then
you
you
think
pull-
I voted to Lex Luthor. But Doug, what do you have for 5?
Sinestro.
Kirk,
Brainiac.
Joe,
Sinestro.
Richard.
Sinestro is a good spot for number 5.
Breaking my heart.
I actually read Ra's al Ghul.
Breaking my heart.
We're in top 5 now, man.
But breaking my heart. It's the only one I got on.
Forgot I hate orange juice.
Who do we got left? We got Ra's,
Um,
Darkseid,
Ra's.
Joker, and Brainiac.
Yep.
Yes. And I don't know why I erased my board.
Don't go breaking the heart.
Joe, who do you have for 5?
4, you mean Brainiac?
That's what I meant, Richard.
I have Ra's al Ghul.
Rachel Gould. Doug.
Ra's al Ghul.
Brainiac.
But Rachel Gould's making it to 4.
I'm gonna die on this next hill.
Oh, you're going there?
Die on this next hill.
All right. Have fun.
It's top 3. I'm not mad now. Top 3 is
No.
not bad.
Yeah. Richard.
I have Brainiac.
Doug.
Dark Side.
Oof.
Oh, I thought you were going somewhere else.
No, I wasn't going there. Come on. I love the 2019 movie.
Brainiac.
Joe.
Brainiac.
Brainiac.
Yeah, y'all suck.
Now we go to number 1.
We're voting for a number 1 now.
Yep.
Are we going number 2? Oh,
No,
number
we-
1. Oh,
Yeah,
Well,
we voted on
that-
number 1.
Yeah.
Write down your 1, and then by default.
yeah.
If everybody doesn't have the same number 1, I'm banishing you from any DC talk.
How do you spell cowboy?
No, the real biggest villain for DC is Marvel.
We're making them have to rush to a Justice League movie.
I mean, they didn't rush to a Justice League movie. They had one in 2012. They just decided not to do it like idiots.
Doug, what is your number?
Because that
1?
script was fucking fantastic. Joker.
Kirk.
Joker.
Joe.
Darkseid and I will die on this hill.
Richard.
Joker.
Yeah, I love Joker, but I love Darkseid more.
Y'all
Close
are
to-
nuts.
But I'll be. With that
Takes it
Joker-
anyway. Takes it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those ones like I would have been more surprised if he didn't become number 1, but and say that, had we said yes to the Riddler, he wouldn't have been on this list at all. So.
Yeah, I know.
I was
That's
honestly
what I'm-
surprised Reverse Flash was as low as it was. I was really bummed about that. I was like,
Actually, the question is, if Riddler made the list, where would you have voted him?
Probably like 5.
on the list,
Yep.
I would say probably 10 or 9.
I would have lost the battle, but I would have wanted him at 5.
Yeah, I would put him at 10 or 9.
But anyway, that brings us to the end of this. I've got the poll with next week's topic, which will be Oscars related, up on the Take 3 Facebook page already, so go vote. But our top 12 DC supervillains. At 12, we've got Dexter. At 11, we got Lobo. At 10, we got Amazo. At 9, we got Vandal Savage. At 8, we got Reverse Flash. At 7, we got Black Manta. At 6, we got Lex Luthor. At 5, we got Sinestro. At 4, we got Ra's al Ghul. At 3, we got Brainiac. At 2, we got Darkseid. And no surprise, our number 1 is going to be Joker. But with
Send in the
that,
clowns.
with that, it's still a pretty solid list all around. But yeah, not much more to say. But Doug, where can people find you online?
Yeah, check me out on Twitter at Douglas_Castle, CASSEL. You can find me on Facebook too. I don't remember the picture that I have. Oh yeah, if you follow Moving Towards Schmodown, it's that picture.
Kirk, where can people find you online?
Anywhere you find Malcolm, I'm probably lurking in the background somewhere. I'm Kirk Kolkowski or Kirk Ho on Letterboxd. That's where I like people to follow me so we can talk about movies.
I should make sure to keep looking out behind me, otherwise I might have Kirk following.
Those are my fingers behind your head there, Malcolm.
Joe, where can people find you online?
They can find me around kind of the film community and family community. I just found out I'm going to be debating Kirk, I
Oh,
believe,
yeah.
in a
Breaking news.
Nerdgasm match. Yeah, breaking news. Kirk and I are going to be debating each other in a Nerdgasm match in Multiplex coming up. So that'll be fun. So be on the lookout for that. And other than that, I'm just around here.
Richard, where can people find you online?
Oh, they can find me on Facebook under Richard Schwartz, Twitter and YouTube under External Void, where I do mobile gaming. I've been kind of distant from it for about a month and a half, but I'll get back to it one day. And you can find me walking around LA because my car's still totaled.
And you can find me hosting Rankum every Saturday night. And next week's topic will be Oscar related. I'll announce what the topic is when I put this this list up on the Take View page as a poll to see what the fans would have gone with from this. You can also find me all around the fan leagues hosting Formula Random. This week got an Indiana Jones match featuring Brian Michaels, Jeremy Adams, and for Antonio Chavez. So it's going to be a really interesting match. And until next week, keep listing shit.